Hi everybody, my name is Colin Love and this is my Legg Park Wetland assignment. Detailed directions to find my site can be accessed on the Meridian Charter Township website. As you arrive at my site, you'll find yourself in the parking lot located within the yellow circle, and our destination is the green one. Due to 3 generous donors, Legg Park covers 103 acres, but luckily we don't have too far to go. When we reach our first checkpoint, we find ourselves crossing over Sloan Creek. After crossing the bridge, we're going to take a left at the fork and continue on Oak Ridge Trail. After walking roughly 100 yards, we're going to take a right-hand turn, walk around the bend, and then another slight right. Venture another 100 yards, and voila, you've made it to my wetland, the Southern Hardwood Swamp. Southern hardwood swamps are a type of forested wetland that occur in southern lower Michigan, on organic and mineral soils that are dominated by lowland hardwoods such as those depicted here. These swamps typically occupy poorly drained depressions that experience regular flooding throughout the year, with standing water typically occurring in the winter and springtime. Primary inflow for this system is precipitation, land runoff, and groundwater seepage. Primary outflow for the system is evapotranspiration and channelized stream flow into the Red Cedar. Considering this area experiences regular flooding, brush piles are found where moving water once deposited debris. Saturated soils are prevalent and are typically loam or clay loam and have a relatively thin layer of muck that's often topped with various forms of detritus. Detritus is composed of plant and leaf litter that is mixed with organic matter to form what is known as humus. The underlying layer is often clay, which decreases water flow through the soil and tends to cause prolonged pooling. In conditions with hydric soils, you're likely to find hydrophytic plants such as skunk cabbage. Skunk cabbage, depicted here, is an extremely unique species that is able to generate heat through the cellular respiration process known as thermogenesis. Not only are they the first to be pollinated because of these properties, but they also act as important sources of protection and food for invertebrates such as our little slug friend here. Many flowering plants exist throughout this wetland. However, the smooth swamp aster is by far the dominating flower species. The smooth swamp aster prefers wet soils where it spreads via underground runners, and it is characterized by having light white purplish flowers that bloom in the fall around early September. Now onto this famous fella, the buttonbush, another flowering hydrophyte that was abundant throughout this area. This plant species possesses several ecosystem services such as the food it provides to waterfowl that feed on the seeds, deer that consume the branch materials, and bees that rely on the nectar contained within its uniquely white-shaped flowers. It also acts as cover for ducks from larger, hungry predatory birds. The small reddish spheres shown in this shot are the remaining fruit that contain the highly desired seeds. This next plant is the turtlehead, a perennial species that is commonly found along stream banks where mucky soils with a neutral pH are present. Lastly, we have the twin flower, where the description lies within its name. In the summertime, 2 twin-like, highly fragrant bell-shaped flowers project from these matted plants. As I began to wander further, I soon took note of the dominant tree species in the area. The most prevalent hardwood was, with no surprise, the silver maple. Silver maples tend to grow where mineral soils are present and regular periods of inundation occur. Given how wet this ecosystem is, it is apparent that many plant adaptations exist to offset reduced oxygen conditions. Examples of such adaptations include adventitious roots, fluted trunks, and lenticels such as these present on the bark of this beech tree. Further details and characteristics of the plant species just covered can be found using the sources at the end of this presentation. Plants weren't the only exciting organisms I came across. These productive environments provide a home for many neat North American critters such as the garter snake, the northern green frog, the spring peeper, and the red-backed salamander. All of these organisms rely on this area's wet conditions and abundant food supply. 2 birds that I frequently saw in the area were the hairy woodpeckers and the black-capped chickadee, a North American songbird that is a non-migratory species. Overall, this southern hardwood swamp appears to be in great condition, considering the diversity of species in the area and presence of key indicator species. However, it is important to note that some invasive species threaten the rich diversity of these ecosystems. For example, the Japanese honeysuckle is a thick, woody vine that often competes with native vegetation as it climbs to great heights in search of sunlight. This invasive vine, known as the Oriental bittersweet, is a species from Eastern Asia that has the ability to swallow its supporting host. Amur honeysuckle is another competitor for sunlight, as it leaves out much earlier than most natives, allowing it to create a dense canopy that drowns out surrounding vegetation. Further information on invasive species can be found in the Field Identification Guide to Invasive Plants in Michigan's Natural Communities. Other concerns for this wetland revolve around how the hydrology is being influenced. Railroad construction at some time cut off the hydrologic flow between my site and the emergent wetland on the south side of the tracks. Unfortunately, it appears that there is no drainage system in place connecting the two habitats. With that being said, this area is relatively unmanaged, and although it is unmanaged, it has high value to humans who utilize this space for recreational purposes. For instance, locals who regularly explore this park are implementing management actions to reduce their impact to the environment. Dirt paths wind their way through the park and have significantly less impact on the hydrology than what concrete pathways that block water flow would have. Several bridges are built throughout the area to allow hikers, runners, and dog lovers an opportunity to explore this pristine forest without altering the natural hydrologic flow. Considering the Meridian Township's future plans for this park may include the development of active recreation and increased accessibility in the southeastern portion, further implementation of such management practices should be continually put to use in order to prevent negative influences on the wetland's ability to provide crucial ecosystem services. Saturated soil conditions also provide an array of microsites for varying plant species. In combination with seasonal fluctuations in floodwaters, these variations in the habitat foster high plant and animal diversity. Threats that risk decreasing biodiversity include hydrologic alterations and invasive species. By monitoring these wetlands and upland communities, we have the ability to maintain species composition and a complex community structure. Hardwood swamps and other wetlands alike are vital habitats that expose the general public to natural ecosystems and allow opportunities of both entertainment, but more importantly, education. These systems and their hydrologic cycles play a critical role in promoting nutrient cycling in regions with species well adapted to wet conditions. I've definitely gained a lot of knowledge from this experience, but what I value the most is knowing the significance of nature centers and parks, and how important their role is in providing unique organisms a relatively untouched home in a rather developed region. With management not only by the state or local government, but surprisingly by everyday individuals who share a sincere appreciation for our state's beautiful landscape, we're able to dedicate space to species that rely on specific conditions for their survival and provide promising conditions for future populations.